Good afternoon, and welcome to the Valley Wine and Spirits video blog series. This is a unique episode. This is an episode that we're doing during the day. I'm not sure if you can all tell that the light that's being reflected in the store is much brighter than it is during our nighttime shoots. I have to have a chance to have a winemaker interview that was actually sprung on the both of us moments ago, and I'm very, very pleased to have Mr. McDonald here from the Girls in the Vineyard. The Girls in the Vineyard is a property that we at Valley Wine and Spirits have had for a couple of months. We've done some emails on it, talked to you a little bit about it, and now I have a chance to have the winemaker, and we have a chance to ask him some questions. So how are you today, Mr.
Excellent.
McDonald?
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Pleased to be here.
If you can't tell, Mr. McDonald has an Australian accent with him. He was the founder of import company called Old Bridge Cellars, which was bringing some of the hottest, trendiest wines of Australia to America before Australia kind of took off about 8 years ago. And since then has moved on to other projects. He is now in California making a wine, as I mentioned earlier, called Girls in the Vineyard. I did set up a list of questions I wanted to ask him. I hope that I cover any of the kind of the topics that you would like to cover. How was that for a bio so far today?
It's pretty close.
All right, pretty close.
Hey, you've done well so far.
All right. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you is like in Australia, like what was the first contact that you had with wine, like with the making of wine, or like was your family involved in wine?
No, not at all. My first contact with wine was probably like most young people's, and that's drinking too much insipid, sweet wine and overdosing on it. But my first real wine experience came probably when I was in Perth, and there's a great retail guy there called John Jens, and John introduced me to an old Riesling. It wasn't that old, but it was about 10 years old, I guess.
It's considerable.
And it was actually Petaluma, an Australian Riesling. And the lights just went on. So, wow, this is real wine instead of what I've been drinking previously. So I think that's what set me on the course. And then when I came over to this country, I actually married one of your people.
Okay.
That's how I ended up over here. I always get accused of being from North Jersey. I don't know what it is. I think it's my accent.
Yeah. Sometimes I think I've heard that.
But when I moved over here, I really wanted to do something that kept me in contact with Australia, and I realised at the time, this was back in the early 90s, that no one was really focusing on those great small Australian wineries, and I saw the opportunity there, so I went around and started
gathering them,
begging these guys to let me have some wine. They all thought the US was a big scary place and didn't necessarily want to sell any wine, and so it took some convincing to get the first wineries on board. But
from what you must have taken it to from its inception to when you did mention that you sold at Old Bridge Cellars was probably the I would say the leader of there was no million case production like some of these bigger Australian import companies, but all the stuff that you had was the sought after, very, very hard to find, trendy, like cutting edge. A lot of what's going on with the grassroots California hands-off winemakers was a lot happening with some of the properties that you had. So that must have been an endeavor. Where did we go from that to making our own wine in California?
Well, interestingly, over the years with Old Bridge Cellars, my wife and I bought a piece of land in Heathcote, and Heathcote's a wine region that's about 2 hours north of Melbourne.
Okay.
And the distinguishing feature of that region is this bright red volcanic soil. It's actually pre-Cambrian. It's about 500 million years old.
Is it like the Barossa at all, like that soil that you're talking about, or no? That's
no,
more clay.
Yeah. This is scalloped around the hilltops. It's literally old volcanic eruption.
Wow.
It's varying in depth and whatnot, and it's full of rock, and it's really, really tough going, but produces great wine.
Okay. predominantly what grapes are seen there?
Generally Shiraz.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not the big, really thick, chocolatey Barossa style. They're intense, but they're finer. They have a real silky texture to them, and some nice eucalyptus characters, and very distinctive, and very intense, but not big and heavy.
Okay.
When we got up to the vineyard that we produce the girls from, we realised that the soil and the profile of the region has some startling similarities to the vineyard in Heathcote.
Really?
And produces different wine. I mean, it's not a direct wine comparison, but the higher elevation, the base of this vineyard is at 1,800 feet, goes up to 2,400 feet.
Wow.
Bright red soil, full of rock. It's actually all obsidian rock, and there's big chunks of obsidian came out of this vineyard when it was being planted, like the size of a Volkswagen, just massive.
Was it a bit scary pulling those big rocks out?
Yeah, yeah.
Yourself, oh man, are we ever really gonna make any wine here?
Yeah.
But
the style of wine, just in its basic structure, is quite similar. Again, it's got lovely intense fruit, but it's not big and heavy, and it's got great texture.
Let's taste it.
We can taste it. This one of the fun things about a wine like this, you can drink it with quite spicy food.
Absolutely. I mean that French oak that you're saying there is pronounced. It's underneath the fruit, but it has that there. You could tell that it's going to have that nice, almost toasty, just a little bit of vanilla at the back that will give you the ability to have like a Thai food or something with it. Even something with a starch with a noodle would be the acidity in this is going to be good enough to cut through that starch. I've tried it once, so I'm kind of fibbing, telling you I haven't.
I've had it with Thai food a lot, and I was in a restaurant in New York, and the lovely older gentleman was originally from Bangkok, and it was his restaurant, and I was telling him about drinking it with Thai food, and he sort of called my bluff, and he went out to the kitchen and he came back with a prawns and a red curry sauce, and I took a bite and it was really spicy. I thought, he's got me on this one.
Yeah.
But I tried it with the wine and it was actually better.
Wow.
It was one of those rare times where the food and the wine actually came together, and they were better together than separate.
Wow.
And the key is not having oak being the dominant character, and having some nice balancing acidity, because acidity brings flavour to the back of your palate.
Yeah.
And spiciness, generally speaking, gets you on the front of your palate or right down through the middle of your tongue. So if you've got a nice balanced wine, the flavours can happily coexist.
And then you can allow that spice to show if your fruit isn't too dominant, and then the spiciness will enhance or allow your mouth to feel the fruit a little bit more, and that's the perfect marriage. But now that sounds absolutely excellent. The prawns with a spicy curry.
Sauce. The other good one is one of your great traditions over here, Thanksgiving. Turkey and cranberry sauce. The bright flavours of the cranberry sauce with the turkey, and that sort of fatty turkey character works really well with the wine too.
Yeah. You definitely see turkey working with this. This almost like the sweetness of the meat, because of the fattiness of it, And generally with all the stuffing, and we're stuffing it with cranberries and stuff of that nature. Very, very excellent. Well, Mr. McDonald, I hope we didn't take too much of your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming by Valley Wine and Spirits. Again, this is kind of a middle episode. We're putting in the middle there. I'll see you again in probably 1.5 weeks. Not too much the 2 that we usually do. Take care. Enjoy your day.